Hey everybody, welcome to the Hand-to-Hand Combat Training Center. I am Chief Instructor Brendan Biggs. We're going to talk about a few different weapons today. First of all being the fighting knife and how you can use those in a situation. We do live up here in North Idaho. A lot of people are hunting, a lot of people are carrying around knives, but do you know how to use it? So we have our friend here and we're going to show a few ways that you can use this against a punch, against any kind of movement coming in. One common error that a lot of people make when they have a knife is they think that this is their only advantage, is a knife. And they put all their focus and all their attention on having that blade, and then they forget that they have three other limbs. To ensure that we're not doing that, great ways of using this are whenever you block, let's say there's a punch coming in, you always use both hands. You're not just blocking with the knife, you're not just blocking with one hand, but you're using both so you can get a cut at the same time and right after that movement. So we've got a good cut here. We've got cuts to the body. Good poking targets are right up into the armpit. There's 32 nerve endings right up in here. It's a great spot to get a good quick reverse poke in and out. So when you're moving in, you can make quick movements, work around your person a little bit, use this other hand. Make sure that you stay in a small stance so you can move back and forth. You also look at something coming in where we're on the outside. A lot of different ways that you can work around someone from being on the outside. You could cross over, you could keep the weapon on this side, but when you block, there are two ways of getting a cutting block. Either you could do a quick cut, like so, or you can block and do a deep cut. Essentially, we would keep our weapon there for half a second, cut, maybe even get something across the leg with a follow-through movement. And a lot of things you can follow it through from there. So there's just a couple quick and easy ways so you can use that fighting knife and learn to work around your opponent. All right, so now we're going to look at the Escrima. This comes from the Filipino islands, and this was actually used in the jungles to fight against the samurai when the farmers had to run away from them, and you'd be surprised at what they could do with a simple little stick. Right here with our friend here, I'm showing a few movements that we can use with the Escrima stick. If they're coming in with some kind of punch, some kind of movement, a block is very, very easy to accomplish with a follow-up strike because we have more distance and we have that striking surface on the stick. Every time you strike with your Escrima, you want to tighten up and cause a tensing action with your fists in order to make that strike effective. So, for moving to this side, we've got strikes here. Those are just simple inward and outward movements, but we also have pokes that we teach as well. Coming underneath, coming over the top. You've also got movements where you can bring your weapon to this side, block, strike across the head, or 1-2, coming over the top. So there's a lot of different things that you can use with this, including your pokes, including your strikes, and that's why we teach Cinco-Set Escrima. Teaches you all four angles that you need to know, including your poking strikes. We are going to go over the bow staff. Now, this is actually the first weapon that students learn how to use in our school at the blue rank. And a lot of the movements that you utilize the bow staff for are actually very similar to how you would utilize a katana or the ninja-to, something very hardstyle karate oriented. So we're going to have two hands shoulder width in the center of our weapon, and every time you use a strike with this weapon, one hand will be pushing while the other hand is pulling. We call this a pull punch movement. So every time you're striking, one hand is pushing while the other one is pulling. There are different kinds of movements you can use coming up under the chin, down on top, 1-2. You always have fast 1-2 movements you can utilize with that bow staff. You can utilize blocking movements, and it's very easy to come right into a plethora of strikes with that weapon from that point. So that's just a little tutorial of ways you can use that bow staff. So last of all, we're going to go over the 3-sectioned bow staff. We already talked about the normal bow staff that students learn at Blue. This is another weapon that you can learn how to train with and requires a lot of awareness because you have two free ends once you are holding it in the center. But before we get there, there is definitely a use for having all three ends together. You can use this for striking, coming across the face. You can use the butt end of the weapon here, use it for hooking around the head, pulling them into a knee. So there are a lot of different things that you can do with all three ends together. Now, if we're dropping our outer ends, you can also utilize essentially motions that back in the day potentially could have been used to block things coming at you like an arrow, or essentially you could just use it to block punches. But essentially, we can use this movement here to help clear a path as you're moving towards your opponent or moving through a crowd of people. You can also utilize the weapon coming across like so, using many different spinning maneuvers in order to create that path for yourself. You could even try one-handing it and essentially just clearing that path. You just have to be very, very aware of what's going on with all three ends of that weapon. This is a pretty fun weapon, takes a long time to build some skill with, but this is one of the things you can learn here at the Hand-to-Hand Combat Training Center.